I'm not a hero. In fiction, slaying more enemies on the battlefield might make you a greater hero. But the real world is different. Saving more lives makes you a greater hero. This is why I am not a hero, no matter how many of my comrades die. I'll always survive. I'm the Grim Reaper, teetering on the brink of death, only to be reborn with greater might. This is the story of the mightiest warrior. A few months ago, our protagonist completed 6 months of training as a new recruit in the United Federation of Humanity. Now, he is on a truck heading to the front lines. They have finally made it to the very front line, the most intense battle zone, the 14th frontline base. Our protagonist's name is Shin Ai, 18 years old, currently a corporal. In his recruit training, he was the last place. He was the weakest, but his courage was the strongest in his group. He joined the army for the sake of everyone in the immigrant district, but Shin's comrades don't like him at all. Kuzui Takeharu, also 18 years old and the top-ranked corporal recruit, was very annoyed, saying, "I can't believe the top-ranked trainee like me got paired with the last-place Shin Ai. What bad luck." Kuzui's underlings agree with everything he says, and they make fun of Shin. An angry Kuzui looks at Shin and tells him not to drag them down. Kuzui said he planned to live leisurely far from the front lines like an elite. He can't die here like a dog. Hearing that, Shin argued with Kuzui, saying, "How can you say something like that? You have no respect for those who've sacrificed themselves." This made Kuzui angry. He grabbed Shin's collar, shouting, "Are you talking back to me? You've been arrogant since training camp." Shin got scared when Kuzui threatened him. Seeing Shin's expression, Kuzui and all his underlings started laughing at him, saying, "This kid is weak as hell." But suddenly, Shin's expression changed after seeing something. It was a huge monster looking right behind their truck, staring at them from outside. The monster opened its mouth, full of sharp teeth, and attacked them. Their truck was destroyed, and everything turned red. Shin, somehow surprised as he fell out of the truck, stands up confused, wondering what just happened, and why his whole body hurts. The scene that met Shin's eyes as he struggled to get up was veterans shooting down those monsters. Shin was shocked. Veterans were wiped out just like that. This can't be real. Is it a drill? Shin thought. As he was walking, he saw thousands of soldiers fighting against monsters. Shin said, "What are we even fighting against?" It's no exaggeration to call this hell. When a commander saw the enemy attack, he ordered the new recruits to engage in battle, saying, "It's earlier than expected. This is no drill. Hit back at those monsters." Hearing that, Shin got too scared and fell to the ground. He was confused about how the enemies were here. It's already the first battle, combat out of the blue. How is this possible? When Shin looked to the side, he saw the dead bodies of his batchmates. They were all dead, and seeing them, Shin got more scared. The childhood memories resurfaced in his mind. The fear of seeing his parents eaten before his eyes, and right now, the scene in front of Shin was just as terrifying as his childhood nightmare. It was very scary and terrifying. But Shin overcame the fear with his warrior's spirit. He screamed loudly, picked up his gun, and stood up quickly. The battle cry is an animal instinct that boosts morale. This also reminds Shin of the rigorous training he underwent for half a year. Shin started shooting, as he was very angry that those monsters actually took out his comrades. Shin runs towards the monsters without any fear, even when those monsters shoot fireballs at him. But it's the same. Before he could do anything, he was swallowed by the exploding fireball. He fell to the ground and lost consciousness. When he wakes up again, he saw that the battlefield was all quiet now. He looks around, wondering where all the enemy are. Where are his people? But what he could see all around was only the dead bodies of his comrades and those disgusting monster corpses. Shin could not believe that the battle was really over. He wondered if he was the only one who had lost consciousness. He started to search for his batchmates, calling their names loudly, but no one replied. This was too shocking for Shin. "Is there no one left alive?" Shin said. "Monster bastard! This is unforgivable! Why must it be this way?" He started crying, calling out, "Is anyone there? Anyone?" In rage, he shouted, "Someone answer me, please." But suddenly, Shin heard someone's voice saying, "You guys, how dare you do this to me?" Shin immediately turned in the direction of the voice, asking, "Is someone over there?" Shin looked back and saw no one. He thought it was a survivor and started to run toward the voice. There, he saw some monsters attacking someone in a group. Seeing that there was someone, and they were still alive, Shin, without a thought, pointed his gun at the monsters and started shooting. He ran toward them, shouting, "Stop right there!" He shot down one monster with his gun, but seeing that another monster made a fireball and threw it at Shin, who was coming towards it, Shin slid on the ground and dodged the fireball, then killed the monster that threw it. But suddenly, another monster sneak-attacked from behind and stabbed Shin with its huge nails, throwing Shin away. When Shin fell on the ground, he noticed that he had lost one hand. He screamed in pain, seeing his own hand at some distance. The monster that cut Shin's hand attacked again. Seeing it coming, Shin tried to stand up and grab his gun. He needed to hurry up, but his body was not in a state that could do much. At the last moment, Shin pushed back himself and grabbed the gun. The monster jumped to attack Shin. But at the last moment, Shin shot him down. The monster fell beside Shin and died. Shin was coughing blood, but he finally did it. He again heard that voice asking, "Did you save me?" Shin laughed and said, "I guess I did." The voice asked Shin why he saved him. Shin, while coughing, said, "Someone was about to die in front of me. There's no way I would do nothing." The voice laughed and said, "You're an interesting guy. All right, it's decided. It's you." Confused, Shin asked the voice what it had decided. The voice asked Shin to let him enter his body. Shin got more confused and asked, "What did you say?" But Shin didn't have much time. He was closing his eyes as something radiating red light approached him. In the next second, Shin found himself in a castle. Shin looked ahead and saw a red-haired guy sitting on the throne. The red-haired guy was looking at Shin with the attitude of a king. He looked at Shin and said, "Rise, human. 50 years ago, seeds came from space, like meteorites, and landed all over the world, creating extraterrestrial life forms known as kaiki, demons from the outside world. These kaiki ravaged the entire world, acting mostly in groups and feeding on human flesh. In response, humans united and began to fight back, launching the Kaiki War Front. As humanity's existence hung by a thread, Shin, a soldier fighting with Kaiki, was unconscious when he heard a voice saying, "Revive human." He immediately woke up to find his previously severed hand had reattached to his body. Confused about how he was still alive and what was happening, he remembered meeting a red-haired guy. Wondering if it was all a dream, Shin suddenly noticed a cute little puppet doll in his hand. Too confused, he wondered who left the doll in his hand. Suddenly, the red-haired puppet doll began to talk, asking Shin how he felt. Shocked to see it speaking, Shin asked the doll what it was. The doll laughed and said, "Kneel, human. Be in awe, boy. I am the undead king Nosferatu. I'm the king of the Kaiki." Shocked, Shin asked again to confirm if it had said the king of the Kaiki. Confused, Shin thought, "Did I merge with a Kaiki? Is that even possible?" He grabbed his head, unable to understand what was going on. The annoyed Demon King said they made a contract, complaining that humans have low intelligence and poor memory. More confused to hear about the contract, Shin learned from the Demon King that when he was attacked, Shin saved him. And then, when Shin was dying, the Demon King asked why he had saved him. Shin had answered at that time that if someone was about to die in front of him, he would definitely save them. Hearing Shin's answer, the Demon King took an interest in him and decided that it was Shin. Before losing consciousness, Shin asked what the voice was going to do. The voice asked Shin to let him live inside him. Shocked to find that it was the Demon King, Shin could not believe that he had saved a Kaiki, thinking it was a human. But suddenly, the Demon King felt something coming from behind, told Shin to get up and run. And after saying that, the Demon King disappeared. The Demon King turned into a little badge and said, "Run before they find us. They're coming." Hearing that, Shin looked ahead and saw those monsters eating the corpses of the humans they had killed before. When Shin saw those monsters eating his comrades, he became very angry. Seeing him angry, the Demon King told Shin that he had decided to rest inside his body until he regained his strength. Angry, Shin told him that he can't just decide that on his own. The Demon King laughed and told Shin that they are now one. If they separate, they will both die. He asked, "Shin, can you feel me inside your body? What would happen if I forcefully removed myself?" While it's frustrating, just as the Demon King said, there's a strange feeling in Shin's chest, Angry, Shin called the Demon King a monster for doing that to him. The Demon King told Shin that he himself is not happy about it either. Living inside a human is really uncomfortable. But there's no other way unless Shin wants to die. Frustrated, Shin admits that he also doesn't want to die, and there are things he must do. He stands up, picks up his gun, shouting, "I'll wipe them out, all the Kaiki." Hearing what Shin wants to do, the Demon King tries to stop Shin, telling him that he will be killed there. But there was no stopping Shin. He jumped at those monsters and started shooting them with his gun. When Shin was shooting those monsters, he noticed that they are very slow to move. Shin felt his heart beating very loud and slowly. He was confused, thinking, what's going on? Why did they suddenly slow down? Shin was distracted, and a Kaiki took this opportunity and jumped to attack him, completely destroying his gun. But Shin easily dodged its attack. Shin realized that it's not that they are slow, it's just him who got faster. Now, confident, Shin moved forward to punch the monster. His body had changed, previously lacking any muscle. His biceps were now so huge that his veins were visible. With full power, Shin punched the monster in the face, completely destroying its skeleton and sending it flying across the field. Shin was shocked. When he punched the monster, he got a sensation like touching a tomato. He wondered what kind of power this was. Shin's heart was beating super fast right now. He placed his hand on his chest, thinking, is it because I merged with the Kaiki? Suddenly, another monster came running to attack him. Shin moved very fast and punched the monster directly in the heart, sending it flying toward its comrades. Now all the monster's attention was on Shin. Looking at his hand and smiling, Shin said, with this, I can do it. He jumped toward those monsters, shouting, bring it on, damn monsters! Within a few hours before sunset, Shin killed all the monsters in that area without any trouble. Even the Demon King was surprised to see Shin's power. Even after absorbing me, Shin, you can stay conscious. Such fighting spirit. For livestock, you're quite a spirited one. He again turned into his puppet form and said, human, I grant you the right to state your name. Well, Shin was not listening to what the Demon King was saying at that moment. Shin had observed that the Demon King wasn't moving freely inside him. Only a part of him could show up, so Shin still had control over his body. Although the feeling of merging with the Kaiki was really bad, with this power, Shin could avenge everyone. Thinking all that, Shin introduced himself as Shinogami Ai. Hearing Shin's name, the Demon King laughed and said, what a short and easy-to-call name like livestock. Angry, Shin asked him, what did you say? But the Demon King didn't reply. He just smiled and said, I'll be counting on you for now, Shin. After that, Shin lost consciousness. When he woke up, he found himself inside a hospital. He remembered the fight with monsters and meeting the Demon King, and wondered if it had all been a dream. However, on his right arm was the Demon King, eating flowers from a flower pot. This confirmed for Shin that everything was real. Currently, Shin was at the 14th Frontline Outpost, which had been converted from an old hospital. Shin told the Demon King not to eat the flowers, but the Demon King continued eating, remarking that they didn't taste very good anyway. My stomach isn't hungry at all. It's such a strange feeling, he said as he swallowed the flowers. Shin found it gross and told the Demon King not to swallow it. The Demon King, wiping his mouth, said, we Kaiki eat humans to survive, but it seems that's no longer necessary now. Hearing this, Shin sighed in relief, saying, that's great. If my body eats people, I'd have to take responsibility and die. Hearing this, the Demon King laughed, remarking that it must look hilarious. Shin didn't care and told the Demon King to say whatever he wanted. Suddenly, Shin noticed a bottle of water. He was surprised because he could see clearly without glasses. He reached out his hand and grabbed the bottle, but with just a little strength from Shin, the bottle exploded. Shin was surprised and immediately took off his wet clothes. Inside, Shin's body had changed completely. The previously skinny boy had turned into all muscles. Shin himself was shocked to see his own body. Now he remembered that right after assimilation, his body got stronger. His vision and muscle strength had improved. The Demon King looked at Shin's body without saying anything. Suddenly, a nurse pulled back the curtain and came to Shin. She was Asuka Ba, a corporal medical cadet and also Shin's childhood friend. Asuka had heard a loud noise and came to check on Shin. Seeing him awake, she asked him how he felt. When she suddenly appeared, Shin got surprised and hit his hand, saying, "Long time no see, Asuka. You look great." Shin tried to act normal, but inside, he was very nervous. He wondered if the Demon King on his right hand hadn't been found out. Asuka got close to Shin, and her presence was very close to his face. She asked Shin if he was okay, feeling dizzy or anything. Seeing her so close, Shin got embarrassed and told her that he was totally fine. When Asuka saw the wet clothes, she asked Shin if he had spilled some water and if he was really okay. Seeing her all worried like that, he reassured her that he was really fine. But Asuka didn't believe him and looked at him suspiciously. Seeing that Shin was indeed fine, Asuka hugged him and started crying, saying, "That's great. I was so worried about you. If Shin dies, I won't be able to live either." Just having her so close was already too much for Shin. And now he got the chance to feel them. He was already out of this world. He somehow calmed himself and asked Asuka how he got into the hospital. Asuka told Shin that he had lost consciousness on the battlefield and was found by the rescue team. He had slept for a whole day, even though he wasn't injured. Asuka was very worried about him and was crying. Shin then asked about the other survivors from the transport team, wondering if he was the only one who had survived. With a sad expression, Asuka told him that only he had been found alive. Hearing this, Shin became very sad, remembering that at that time all his comrades had been eaten. He was angry with himself for not being able to save them. The room filled with sadness. After a few minutes, Asuka mentioned she needed to call a doctor, but suggested changing Shin's clothes before leaving. Embarrassed, Shin first checked his arm and found that his right hand was back to normal. Seeing Shin hesitate, Asuka tried to tease him by asking, "Aren't you wearing underwear and pants? So why are you still shy at this point?" Caught off guard, Shin was surprised by her comment. Asuka laughed and said, "Shin, I'm a military doctor, even if I'm just an intern. I saw everything when you were brought in." Shocked and embarrassed, Shin asked if she saw everything, to which she replied, "Yes, and remember I've been watching over you since we were kids, like a sister." Shin laughed and acknowledged her and her parents' care since childhood. Asuka interjected, "There's also me, right?" Shin, harboring a childhood crush on her, was reluctant but agreed. Seeing Shin laugh, Asuka felt relieved and praised him. "Shin, it's been a while and you've gotten stronger." Caught off guard, Shin laughed it off, saying it was nothing. He knew that no one must ever find out about his assimilation with the Kaiki. Asuka expressed surprise at his muscle gain, acknowledging him as an excellent soldier. However, Shin, with a sad expression, told her it wasn't like that, since he couldn't save his comrades. Asuka tried to calm him, saying that despite everything, he had fought bravely on such a tragic battlefield. She held his hand and told him he should be proud of that. Motivated by her words, Shin smiled broadly and thanked her. Asuka reminded him that psychological counseling is also part of a military doctor's job, and from now on, Shin should rely on his sister more. After that, Asuka left to get some clothes for him to change into. Just as she left, the Demon King emerged, pointing at Asuka and saying, "That female just now seemed to like you. Is she your girlfriend?" Shocked, because this time the Demon King came out of his left hand, Shin told him that it wasn't like that. They were just childhood friends. He asked the Demon King, what now? What should they do? The Demon King told Shin there was no point in being discovered by the pursuers. He would rest inside Shin's body until his strength recovered. Curious, Shin asked the Demon King what would happen after his strength recovered. The Demon King laughed and said, "Of course I'll eat you guys. You're our food. It's unpleasant inside a human body. But considering your achievements, I'll forgive you." Shin was shocked to hear that. The Demon King assured him not to worry, saying, "I'll savor every bite of you. I have gratitude for all ingredients. We won't even leave a single bone." Hearing this, Shin realized this guy was a Kaiki, not someone he could communicate with. He needed to figure something out before the Demon King's strength returned. Meanwhile, Kuzui Takeharu, the corporal at the top of the new recruit training class, finally made it to the main force successfully. The entire army was wiped out. When the monsters attacked, Kuzui was so scared that he hid to save his life. Only one thought was running through his mind. He had to escape. Even if he was the only one left, he had to get out of there. As Kuzui was thinking about escaping, a comrade, trapped under a bus, called out to him for help. But Kuzui was so scared that he ran away, abandoning his injured comrade. He ran as fast as he could, disregarding orders and comrades. Focusing solely on saving himself, he used them as meat shields to ensure his survival. That's how he made it to the main force. In the infirmary, Shin asked the Demon King if he could assimilate with other animals. The Demon King replied that he didn't know, as he hadn't tried. When Shin asked about assimilating with humans, the Demon King said it was his first time, and it seemed quite successful. Shin was shocked by this revelation. The Demon King laughed upon seeing Shin's surprised face, but Shin didn't find it funny at all. Suddenly, someone entered Shin's room. He quickly hid his hand. It was Kuzui, who was equally surprised to see Shin. Shin was overjoyed to see Kuzui alive and approached him, exclaiming, "This is wonderful! I thought I was the only one left in our team." Kuzui grabbed Shin and asked how a weakling like him survived. Kuzui was worried that if they found out he fled from the enemy, he would be done for. He asked Shin if he had seen anything. Shin, confused, asked what he meant. Kuzui clarified, asking about the others with him. Shin replied that he didn't see them, but was surprised Kuzui cared about his comrades. Kuzui was taken aback, wondering what Shin meant. Shin explained, "You asked because you care if your teammates are okay, right?" Kuzui was surprised by this misunderstanding. However, he told Shin, "You're alive and well even though you're weak. It seems like you have good luck." Shin agreed, saying he should have died there too. Kuzui was genuinely surprised and wondered what Shin meant by that. Before he could ask, the nurse Asuka came in. She asked Kuzui if he was hurt anywhere and how he was feeling. Shin told Asuka that Kuzui was from his unit and had also survived. Asuka was happy to see Shin smiling again, as he had been blaming himself for not saving anyone. However, Kuzui was not pleased to see Shin and Asuka so close. He grabbed Asuka's butt, shocking her. Kuzui told Asuka, "Hey medic, I'm the one who's injured. Don't point your butt at me." Shin, unhappy with Kuzui's behavior, grabbed Kuzui's hand and asked him to stop. Kuzui warned Shin not to get cocky, calling him a weak runt. But Kuzui couldn't free his hand from Shin's grip. He wondered how Shin could be so strong. Shin used a bit more strength and made Kuzui fall to his knees. Terrified, Kuzui told Shin to let him go because he was injured. However, Shin, angry, warned Kuzui that if he dared to touch Asuka again, he wouldn't let him off easily. Asuka intervened and told Shin not to worry, saying she was fine. Just then, the Demon King warned Shin that the enemy was coming and told him to run. Asuka and Kuzui also heard the voice. Asuka asked Shin whose voice it was. But before she could ask more, the building began to shake, and the ceiling started to fall. Soldiers began running as the enemy attacked. "The base has been infiltrated! Equip the boundary breaker!" someone shouted. As Shin and Asuka came out of the room to see what was happening, the wall in front of them broke, and a monster emerged. Asuka was terrified to see the creature. Shin told Asuka to step back, saying he would handle it. Kuzui, scared, thought that there was only one enemy, but they were unarmed. To save himself, he pushed Asuka in front of the monster and started running away, thinking, "If we use the medic as bait, the weak runt will stay too. Set 2 baits, and I can escape for sure. I must survive, even if I'm the only one left." Asuka, hurt and scared, couldn't stand as the monster approached her. The Demon King told Shin it was a good bait and urged him to escape to the north side, where the enemy was weaker, since he couldn't show his power there. As the monster got closer to Asuka, about to kill her, Shin intervened and punched the monster in the face, sending it flying. Upon seeing this, Shin realized he had become much stronger. With this power, he could save Asuka and everyone else. He asked Asuka if she was okay, and if she could stand up. Asuka replied that she had twisted her ankle and couldn't walk. So Shin made her sit on his waist. Asuka started blushing, thinking about how strong Shin had become. Before leaving, Shin wondered where Kuzui had gone, questioning if he had been knocked out. The Demon King, sensing Shin's thoughts, remarked how foolish it was that Shin hadn't noticed he was being used as bait. He told Shin that now wasn't the time to worry about those who weren't there. Asuka asked whose voice that was, noting that she had heard it earlier too. Shin replied, "It's nothing. This is not the time to think about voices. We have to get out of this dangerous place. The most important thing was to get Asuka to a safe place and then look for weapons. However, the Demon King smelled the scent of that guy from the minions they took down earlier. "They're here! They actually followed us here!" he said. Moments later, Shin reached the weapon storage room. As he entered, soldiers pointed their guns at him. Shin asked them to put their guns down, saying he was one of them. The soldiers, initially scared, thought a monster had found them. They eventually lowered their guns when they realized Shin was an ally. Shin asked the soldiers to take a look at the injured medical trainee Asuka and inquired if everyone was holding out there. A soldier explained that they had orders to protect the non-combatants and asked Shin who he was and where he was from. Shin introduced himself. "I'm a new recruit from the Yabonai Corps, 14th Infantry Battalion, 30th Squad. Please give me a weapon too." After receiving some combat gear and starting to change, Shin felt relieved that there were still some boundary-breaking armaments left. The Demon King warned Shin that staying there was a dead end. Shin agreed, knowing they had to push back the enemy. The Demon King then told Shin to listen to him, revealing that he knew the location of the enemy's leader. Shin was surprised and questioned how the Demon King knew that. The Demon King explained that if Shin took down the enemy commander, the minions would retreat as well. Shin asked him, "Why are you telling me this?" The Demon King replied, "The traitor who stole the throne from me, he is here now. He has the same scent. I must bury him with my own hands." Upon seeing how angry the Demon King was, Shin realized there was quite a bit of resentment. Shin believed him, saying, "You want revenge, and I want to protect the base. Our goals are the same." The Demon King teasingly asked Shin if he wanted to protect that female. Because of this, Shin's cheeks turned red, and he told the Demon King, "Asuka is not just some female." A soldier noticed Shin and asked him what was wrong. He told Shin they would watch the entrance and that he could rest. But Shin told them he was going out to face the enemy. The soldiers were really shocked to hear this and told him it was a complete suicide mission. Shin told them not to worry and asked them to just protect the weapons and non-combatants there. The soldiers felt ashamed for sending a new recruit like him, but were also surprised by Shin's courage. They agreed with Shin. As Shin started walking toward the door, Asuka stopped him, telling him, "Don't go, outside." But Shin replied that staying there was useless, and even if it was just a little, he wanted to contribute his fighting power. Asuka started crying, asking Shin why he was leaving her again, just like when he volunteered for the army. Reflecting on the past, Shin remembered when he volunteered for the army, and Asuka tried to stop him from joining. She told him it would be better to live quietly there with their family, but Shin refused, telling her that there were people fighting to protect that place, and even if it was just a little, he wanted to help. Despite Asuka's repeated refusals, Shin did not agree. She then asked Shin to promise her that he would return safely. In the present, Shin still refused. He wanted to save people with his power. Asuka, crying, thought Shin had changed so much physically, but his stubbornness hadn't changed since he was young. With a big smile, she said farewell and asked him to come back safely. Shin smiled and went away. As he was running, he asked the Demon King where exactly this leader he mentioned was. The Demon King told Shin to run northeast, 200 units away. But before that, he had to deal with the monster in front of him. The Demon King assured Shin he didn't have to worry since he was wearing an anti-Kaiki combat suit. Anti-Kaiki combat equipment, commonly known as boundary-breaking armament, was developed from Kaiki corpses. Humans had researched and created combat exoskeleton suits. To put it metaphorically, it was the necessary equipment against a grizzly bear that can fire tank shells. Kaiki were capable of unleashing augmented abilities that far surpassed the current strength and agility, but the true essence of the boundary-breaking armament lies not in its suit, but in its weaponry, designed to deal with resilient exteriors that are unaffected even by tank shells and bombs. It is the only effective means against the invulnerable Kaiki. To activate the boundary-breaking armament, fresh blood containing ANF is required. Currently, only portable weapons have been developed. Even with such limitations, for Kaiki, which are unaffected by existing bombs and missiles, the might it unleashes is still tremendous. Shin successfully killed the monster in front of him. However, upon seeing this, the Demon King wondered, Did they use our power to create these weapons? But he was more shocked to see Shin. He indeed had the strength of a soldier. Shin asked the Demon King to take him to where the so-called leader was and started running. Moments later, he saw Kuzui, who was in danger. He killed the monster in front of him and moved forward without noticing Kuzui. Shin asked the Demon King, "Is this the right direction?" To which he replied, "Of course." But it was another dead end. Since Shin had just arrived at the base, he didn't know his way around at all. The Demon King informed Shin that the leader was slowly moving east. Shin asked if he could smell him again, to which the Demon King replied, "It's a bit different from what humans call smell, more like intuition and aura." Shin found a map of the building, which solved his problem of finding a route to Building B in the east. As he was checking the map, the Demon King warned him to watch out for the enemy. Shin crouched as a monster attacked, countered, and killed it. He smiled, thinking that, as the handbook said, they only used small fireballs indoors. At this rate, he would run out of bullets and would have to take them from his comrades' bodies. As he took bullets from his comrades' bodies, he asked for forgiveness. The Demon King asked Shin what he was apologizing for. Shin told him that they should let him stay like this and not disturb him, and he also wanted to pay his respects. But for the Demon King, it was just a dead piece of meat. Shin questioned the Demon King, "Why do Kaiki only use small fireballs indoors?" The Demon King replied, "The small fry consume energy rapidly. Besides, if we turn you into charcoal with fireballs, we can't eat you, right? Eating you alive is the tastiest. Just sucking blood is such a waste. Humans have nowhere to run, after all." Shin was really shocked to hear this, wondering what kind of monsters they were. But the Demon King replied that when it comes to food, humans are the same. After that, Shin started running east to find their leader. Meanwhile, on the other side, soldiers were fighting monsters. The problem was that they were out of bullets and had no more to stop the monsters. The monsters took advantage of this situation and tried to attack them, but before they could, Shin got there. Everyone was really surprised to see Shin walking on the wall. Without wasting any time, Shin pointed his gun at the monster and started attacking. Apart from his greatly enhanced physical abilities, Shin's moves were just like in the handbook. Because he was faithful to the basics, even a simpleton could show great strength from serious training. The enhanced body was really useful here. They thought running along the wall was something, but it was actually the three-point burst from the handbook. And close combat with a knife? A soldier asked Shin, "When and where did you train for this?" He told them, "I am Corporal Ai Shinogami. Were those moves just now the results of your basic training?" Upon hearing this, everyone was shocked, thinking, how can someone learn wall running in basic training?